So we're back, and now what I'd like to talk about is an important, compelling issue that addresses both health, public health, and medical care. And that's the issue of disparities and inequities in health and healthcare, and in particular, racial and ethnic disparities. More recently, some people actually don't like the term disparities and are calling it inequities, racial and ethnic inequities in health and healthcare. But whichever term you use, it is recognizing and attempting to address the striking and deep disparities in people's health status depending upon their race and ethnicity, depending upon their geography, their socioeconomic status, their gender preference. So the term disparities really didn't come into broad use until the late 1990s. It was before then put under a kind of amorphous, broad, bland topic label known as minority health. People were concerned about minority health. And it was the U.S. Surgeon General at the time, Dr. David Satcher, who saw this as an urgent public health need in the United States, particularly as racial and ethnic minorities by 2050 are going to represent a majority of the U.S. population. And so he framed the otherwise bland topic of minority health and rebranded it as racial and ethnic health disparities in a way to try to create moral urgency and a sense of important impact and need to be addressed. In 2003, the Institute of Medicine came out with a landmark report called Savage Inequalities, which really put together all of the evidence going back decades that documented the extent and the impact of racial and ethnic health disparities and healthcare disparities. It's differences in terms of health status, but it's also differences in terms of care. We were able to see in that report in incredible detail just how much evidence has shown that, for example, in many, many places around the country, all over the country, that African Americans got, with the identical health problem, got different treatment and less quality treatment than Caucasians did. And so that created a sense of urgency that has led the federal government to become far more aggressive in terms of saying we have to pay attention to this. So right now when you go for research grants, you have to, from the National Institutes of Health, you have to explain how you're going to increase knowledge about the impact of whatever it is you're investigating on race and ethnicity. So we see disparities and or inequities, whichever term you want, as a major target right now for public health policy. Let me just show one more difference in disparities, and this is more geographic disparities, but if we look deeper into it, we also see racial and ethnic impacts as part of it. This map shows you by county age-adjusted obesity in the United States. And this is for 2008. And I'll give you the clue, the key if you can't read it yourself. Dark red is bad, and lighter brown or yellow is better. And so what we can see is that we have a geographic disparity in terms of the distribution of obesity in the United States. We see it very much in the southern states, and we see other parts of the nation that, at least by comparison, and every state has a problem with obesity, but the problem is especially acute in some parts of the country. Why is this? Well, there's a lot of explanations. It has to do with income. It has to do with access to healthy foods. It has to do with the ability to exercise. It also has to do with culture. It has to do with eating patterns. What's the impact of this? Who cares? Well, look at the next chart. This is heart disease death rates in U.S. county in the United States. This is between 2002 and 2007. Look at where the death rates are for heart disease. Do you see a disparity there? Do you see a difference? And when you think back to the obesity rate and then you look at this, do you see at least a rough correlation between the higher death rates for heart disease and the higher obesity rates? I think it's pretty obvious and it's pretty plain. So these are some of the problems that we try to get at. And some of these, it's not just racial and ethnic disparities, it's geographic, it's all kinds of inequities that are out there, and those are the targets that public health tries to address through the whole pyramid of interventions. But the important message is this: it's not just about individual behavior. It's about a whole series of things that lead you and encourage you to make the right choice for yourself and your family, or to make the unhealthy choice. And society and the things that we do as businesses, as governments, can help to create better health outcomes, or can actually hurt and make it harder to do it. And that's one of the challenges, the essential core challenges of public health in this century moving forward.